Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Traveling Molly's, our monthly second Monday of the month virtual poetry reading and featured readers and open mic readers. I'm Al DeGenova and my co-host is Nina Corwin.
Hey all, this is Nina Corwin. I don't know if I can get my picture transferred over, so it's still you. But anyway, welcome. We've been doing this thing for 20 years and now more than 20 years. And now that we are in pandemic mode, it's virtual Traveling Molly. So we're really traveling enough, in fact, to have open micers and features from all over the country. Tonight, we have as features Stefania Gomez and Jeffrey McDaniel from the East Coast. And we're looking forward to a great night.
Usually Nina and I start the open mic so no one else has to be first. And I interrupted you, Nina. What were you going to say?
I don't know.
Would you like to go first or do you want me to go first?
Whatever.
Okay. I got my poem is up on the screen, so I'll start the open mic. This is a fairly new piece. So like before I read, I wanted to just say for our audience on YouTube and the open micers, there's no particular order for us to read down the open mic list. So just be surprised and we'll call your name and we'll have fun before we get to our features. So I'm going to read a new poem that is very new and untried, and hopefully it works for everybody. This is called Human Nature. Some will follow the faint trail of blood through the fresh snow, searching for the story. Some will pay a man with a pickup truck to remove the carcass, the deer that ran, a single bullet in its belly, to die under a pine tree in my woods. Coyotes in the night mutilate the hindquarters, scrape out with sharp-clawed paws warm organs and entrails. Crows peck and pull fur and skin down to long white ribs. The pool of red and purple, the lifeless eyes of the untouched face. No one blames the coyote or crow for their hunger, nor the hunter thinking he missed who hoped to share venison with his family. Some, though, without hunger, would kneel on the dying neck, draw a handgun, and shoot 15 more holes into the hide, blaming the beautiful doe for something like running. Some would watch this quietly, some would cry out, and some would walk away to let nature take its course.
That really is lovely. Hey, Al, would you mute yourself? Because I don't think we're getting off your screen. All right, let's see if it's, I don't know. Is there anybody else seeing anybody but Al?
I'm seeing you.
Oh, there you are. Okay, let's see if I can get any views. So, Kurt, help. All right. So you guys may not be able to see me, but
we see you, Nina.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. I don't see me. I see you. Anyway, this is The Safety of Frost. The part about when my grandmother told me that I should have been rhyming is absolutely true. In the nightmare scenarios of a Jewish grandmother, the free verse granddaughter is discovered unconscious and unscrubbed in some grungy neon lit hotel wearing underwear that hasn't been washed in over a week. Or living a life of wild out of wedlock sex with uncircumcised men of third world descent and derelict days spent rummaging through dusty ashtrays for a toke on the butt of a stubbed out inspiration. Do you want to end up like that awful Ann Sexton, she demands, or Allen Ginsberg, oi Gewalt, his poor mother? So I tell her Ginsberg's mother was crazy before he came along, and maybe that's why he became a poet. She shakes a book of Robert Frost, proclaiming here in in metered quatrains and no uncertain terms is a real poet. And by the way, don't quit your day job. I wonder if she's read the last pages, where he lapses into an anarchy of unrhymed passages, the luxury of barefoot narrative, falling just short of uneven lines, the subversive pleasure of random punctuation. All right, then. Let's see where we're going to start with the open mic. Again, a reminder, 5 minutes is as much as each person will be taking. And we've got a whole lot of women and not too many men, which is what often happens here. And I'm going to start with Sarah Ray. Sarah, who's an experienced reader, good to see you. Give us what you got.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Nice to off. Okay, so I'm gonna time myself here. Okay, I'll try and read 3. The first one is In the Jardín. I wrote this when I was in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. And the poem is a variation on a villanelle form, and I reference the children that sell chicle in the streets, chiclets, chewing gum in the streets. Okay, In the Jardín. In the Jardín, the mariachis sing, corn roasts on vendors' grills, scenting the air. El Niño tries to sell his chicle to the perfumed lady in the white lace shawl. The newspaper man makes his final sale as he packs up the day's remaining issues, El País, El Excelsior, the New York Times. In the Jardín, the mariachis sing. Teenage lovers entwine on wrought iron benches. Nuns in brown and black habits pass them by. El Niño tries to sell his chicle to the black stilettoed woman at the fountain, her breath spilling from her purple silk blouse as she reaches for her purse. Shoe shiners at each corner buff and polish, polish and buff. Children gaze at clown-dressed merchants with bright, elongated balloons. In the Jardín, the mariachis sing. Parents push crying babies in strollers. Traditionally clothed women make their rounds with hand-embroidered wares. El Niño tries to sell his chicle to the retired American expat in convertible khakis. Lights illuminate the fountain's rainbowed colors, the buildings that surround. Ice cream sellers scoop pistachio, vanilla, chocolate, hazelnut, strawberry, coconut. In the Jardín, the mariachis sing. El Niño tries to sell his chicle to the blue jean college students, their backpacks dangling off their shoulders as they search their pockets for change. Thank you. All right. Now going to one that I wrote based on being in Morocco one summer. Call to prayer. It starts a low drone. Voices weave in waves, quavering up, down, high, low, surging, receding, undulating, building, close by, far away. The nearest from the mosque 2 rooftops over, the constant metallic microphone buzz, a gasp for breath, the intake of air, not knowing what comes next. Lying beside you on the concrete roof, I grasp for sleep, reach for its slippery hold. The night sweats, pulls us deep. I wait in the crevices, the pauses between. Notes pulse through our bodies, hang in turgid air. Did we finally reach the end? Thank you. And okay, I'm doing pretty well on time. Good, sounds good. Okay, so the last one is something in a style I usually do not write. So I'm a bit nervous. It's like a new experience for me. And I took an online workshop on the poetry of Bob Kaufman this fall. And one of the prompts was to open up the book and find a line and then riff off of that line. So that's what I did. Attempted a form that Diane Seuss uses with 14 unrhymed lines, 17 syllables apiece. So let's give it a shot here. Here we go. The jelly of time. Now they give a new form, quivering, jelly-like. Bob Kaufman. Jelly, like jelly, like jelly, like the form, the formation. Mom making jelly, the grape jelly of my childhood. She canned it. I made some too in the form, in the kitchen of my childhood. The jelly, quivering, quavering. I'm thinking about my lover and him quivering, and I'm quivering for you like jelly. I made banana and peach jelly. I want to go back to my high school self. Let me go back through the jelly of time. Now push me forward, push me clear. It's tinted grape and purple. Tint me a new color. I want to be part of the life jelly, dissolved sugar melding, transforming, forming to something else jelly. I put it on biscuits. I can see the surface through jelly, the cracks, the furrows, the crevices we fall into, and we quiver through our lives, in our forms, through our joys, our ruinous worlds, in all our days to each other. We take up the quiver through the new form, through the now jelly, through the jelly of time. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. It's weird how things get into the air and the ether. This past summer, Nina loaned me a book of Bob Kaufman's, and then I wrote a cento of Bob Kaufman's. That's the one. That is it. So next on our open mic, let's maybe person who's the farthest away. Robbie Nestor, who's in California, joining us tonight. Robbie?
Hi, it's good to be here again. I thought I'd call and raise a Jewish grandmother for Nina. This poem is called Questions, and both of these poems are from my book, Narrow Bridge, which is from Main Street, and I can't show it to you because there it is. Okay, 2019. Poem's called Questions. As a child, I didn't spend much time with my paternal grandmother. I feared her hungry, sidelong glance, inspecting me, finding me wanting. She denied any resemblance others saw between us. But once I spent a whole day at her house, wishing she could be like other people's grandmothers, warm and soft, uncritical. Instead, she was all angles, small and spare like me. She seldom smiled. At least she fed me. I remember eating chicken soup out of a Wedgwood bowl. I ate 2 helpings just for the joy of getting to the bottom, where tiny farmers tilled a field in blue and white, all edged in willows and wild roses. Along the bowl's steep sides, flocks of swallows wheeled beneath white clouds, and young girls drove plump cows before them with a stick. We didn't talk. I turned the pages of a picture book, distracted by the questions I would never ask. Who were those people in the photographs beneath the window? Why did my grandmother find me such a disappointment? I knew I'd always be an outsider, claimed and rejected all at once. My second poem is another female trope that we hear a lot, mermaids. I have a kind of different take on them. So this poem's called Mermaid to Woman. In the ocean's wavering light, seen from above, her body wears a human form, yet the mimicry remains imperfect. Her shape resembling the swell and sudden falling off of breakers in a storm. Striped teeth, those of a parrotfish, suitable for tearing flesh. Dorsal fin, a frill between sharp shoulder blades. Wild octopus eyes. All her life, she sang ships straight into the rocks, but could not help pitying the sailors far from home, drawn by voices that promised so much. A predator in love with her prey, she envies their shapely calves, longs to enfold them in her own strong thighs, to scissor the waves and step out on shore. She's only held their drowned and swollen bodies. Just once, she wants to touch their living skin, to scrape the glittering scales from her long arms, her hands. She would give up anything, her sweet voice, bright carpets of coral and anemone, duets with whales, to be one of those alien others striding the green world. Thank you.
All right now. So how about Nicole? You want to step up to the mic, as it were? Nicole Wilson.
Oh, Nicole, you're muted. There you are.
Well, sorry about that. Hope y'all are doing well. I've enjoyed the poem so far. Thank you, Al, for inviting me. Can you hear me now? Is it working?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good. I can't hear you. I just had a little book come out. It's called Elephants in the Casket, and I've made my little marks. I'm only going to read 2 poems. They're a little longer. One's a sestina, and I think I'll start with that. It's one of the older ones in the book, and then the next one will be the newest one. It's called Sharp Edges. It starts with an epigraph. Yeah, you got a piece of me, but it's just a little piece of me, and I don't need anyone. Adam Duritz, have you seen me lately? When I collected my hair as if for ponytail, I must have thought by the time long red strands grew back to that same luscious length, there would be no lines left from the falls I shared with him. Falls like September towers and fading leaves, our descent. Sudden severances, like the foot of red locks in my hand. When he raged again into our room, I held up my hand. He never told me what he thought, but the look on his face was enough, its quick descent, of realization, anger at what he couldn't get back. Tears fell next, but I had no sympathy for him. I should have waited with the scissors until after he'd left. The next day, a stylist tamed the shards of what was left. I told the story, my identity falling as trash from my hand, leaving out parts like saying I'd call the police on him, the phone fragments in the parking lot. But what she must have thought. She asked if he stayed, if I took him back, said I was brave. My head shook, polite dissent. I fell for him in the Red River Gorge, a blind descent, fast like 2 a.m. Gray's arch repellers, the world left behind. And I never wanted to go back, fear forgotten, gloves to prevent rope burn big on my hands. Because of Half Moon Rock, I didn't give second thought to warnings coworkers gave, looks people threw him. Of course, they were right to tell me to avoid him, but rationalizations ripped from my lips in rapid descent. I didn't care what anyone thought, and there were so many times I should have left, made him go instead of taking scissors in my hands and sundering strawberry waves, bright waterfall down my back. But I kept going back until forced to live in a hotel to hide from him, after coming home from work to find my room wrecked by his hand, pieces of computer glass, picture frames, scattered markings of forced descent. I took some trinkets from the past, but the bed we shared I left. There was no more need for thought. And when I look back, I don't care what he thought. Only see him picking through the trash for the dead hair I left, holding it in his hands, winding curls into a jar, token of our descent. Okay, I should probably tell you what the title of the book is called. It's called Elephants in the Casket, and it's from Workhorse Writers. And I'm pretty excited about it. It was my last act of 2019 to send it in, and it got picked in the open reading thing. Period, I guess. So this is my newest poem. I wrote it the day of the Dayton shooting. It's called Bullet Points of Trajectory. I am my mother's child. I am my father's child. Gemini air sign, I am a twin of the sky. Freckles star my canvas. Family filters blood and bone. The city of my birth is full of death today. Chains of DNA pooling into quenched possibility. I can be flowery with exuberance, but not here where we wash blood with wishes. What is this place where waters of life weigh so little? Less than a round of whiskey at the bar where you can get shot without a glass. My fractured America, of thee I sing. My beautiful home, where is that storied dream? August sun rises with sirens post nightmares, but look at all who have fallen not asleep. They sell fucking bulletproof backpacks for children. School's about a week away. Welcome. Back away with your hands up, and if you're the white shade, we'll probably just arrest you. This is not tangential. Black lives matter. I'll use my privilege until my words run out. I'm less likely to be murdered for speaking out. Nothing like a heart rendered motionless, tangible bullets tearing time in two. Half my life ago, shots rang through Colorado, mountainous cacophony echoing through the nation. And so much later, is it too late? Is our country in a state of do not resuscitate? Can we put an act on asinine acts of capitalism? The NRA is not your daddy. Uncle Jim Crow did his best Kane impression for Sam, and this is America, land of rape and money and mass shootings, home of the depraved, home of the survivors, home of early graves. Thoughts and prayers. They will not create the holes you put your family in. If your God hasn't sent thunder by now, it's up to you to dig. The tools are your hands, your voice, your stand. Cease the need to make a place in earth for the descent of quick caskets. Measure holes in our land and shovel in new life. Plant trees and let us breathe together. Amen. We must keep echoing voices of the brave. It's easier to uplift and cultivate than repair the broken or damned. Build schools over the rubble of private prisons. It's a vision and time to expand it. Grow tall oaks of perfect maples, sturdy buckeyes, bark-lined silhouettes that could actually block bullets and remain standing. Instead of actual family trees of Ohioans, Floridians, South Carolinians, felled early, cut by bullets in sacred spaces. But damn me if everyone's breath and step and pulse isn't holy. Quit consuming poisonous flesh and the propagandized pit. Climb limbs of blood, of bone, of bounty, and bless your bloodlines. Emulate or improve the biography of your kin. Thank you all very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Nicole. It's nice to hear you read. It's been a while.
Yes.
It was really nice. Who should go next? I think we should bring up one of our couple of guys who are here for the open mic. Leonard, you want to go next? Leonard Lunt.
Sounds good. Nina, it's not just Jewish grandmothers. My father, when he read my first book of poetry, the first collection, said that it couldn't be poetry because it didn't rhyme. And my mother-in-law, about the same book, said, I didn't expect it to be any good at all. What can I tell you? Families and the things we do around them. What does your hand become when you catch a firefly? If you hold your fingers just so, is it a flickering lantern to help trace your lifeline? Though a very human act, is that a wise one? If you squeeze hard, does your palm become a bright and foolish stain you'll never wash away? Where does your hand go when you release a ladybug? Laugh if you want. I know it stays there, part of you, but you stay right there in bed while you fly away in dreams. So, do your fingers soar, pulling the strings of your willing heart to make it follow? The scarf your father brought you when he came home for Christmas, the one that made you cry in honor of its hand-knit elegance, colors calling out your eyes by candlelight, still kept in your cedar chest for all these years. Did he tell you a story about where it came from? Perhaps a woman who made it exactly right for an 8-year-old? How he set aside part of his pay each week all autumn just to please his daughter? I doubt he spoke the truth. Never told you of the girl your age, her crying as he pulled her from her mother's embrace, led her to the cage, took her only keepsake, her only hope, just to give it to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Leonard. And on we go. How about Tori Grant Wellhouse, who I haven't heard before, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Al, for inviting me. I'm a poet from Green Bay, and I just have 2 poems tonight, one short, one longer. And in another life, I eloped to Scotland, so these are kind of related. Haggis. He jokes it was a beast. I believe him. Foreign American pencil skirt, imagining a snuffling creature in the ancient pines, patting Lomi on a brew of earth, an animal of witness, unseen in the murk. Winding walks of the braes, wilding the village, gathering keeks of the river, the sea, the smell of wetness, me sinking in my knee-highs, sky half cast like a squint. I'm at the butcher's on the corner in the square. Smell of knives and grease paper, smell of organ grinding, anatomy, black peppercorns. A smile like pasture in his blood-stained pinny. The butcher hands me what I ask for, a parcel of mince heart, liver, and oatmeal, neatly tied with twine. I boil it in a pan, stuffed with disbelief and spice. My Scottish husband says I'm too gullible. The pudding steams like field dressing, sliced across the middle. I prefer the legend, a creature given up for lost. And my second poem is called Season of Sun-Bleached Mandible. I walk between dead bodies, a goose in balletic repose, quilted body folded in on itself, neck loose, a raccoon decomposing on the verge of gravel, stopped by a car in the night. At first, the bloody organ sacks and buzzing flies, crows preening near the massacre with sharp beaks. A grass snake flattened in the shape of a W, monogram of belly scales and stripes. A skunk with a stink so manifest I squeeze my nostrils tight. The corpses I don't see. My grandson wonders what it would be like to meet his dead grandfather. How would he be like to him? I think of him in his plush robe, kingly, W for William, Willie mostly, although with the Scots pronunciation, woolly like huddled sheep on the braes, woolly like weathered tartan woven in a warp and weft, distinctly crisscrossed, red as the sky, green as the stirred up sea. Could I divine him? Would he step out of the shower, steaming, raking clean his blue-white skin, coiled hair, grin like the hinge of tall teeth? How he hated the dirty work, yet he would have words for you, grandson, and your father. Face forward, for fuck's sake. Keep your secrets to yourself. Get out of the way of your own sledgehammer. Words that stack like dry stones in a dike of tempered understanding. None of us can escape ourselves. He shakes the rock dust from his hair in ghostly prescience, how rock dust suffuses the unorganized whole, how shifting is constant, each carcass an accident of hubris, dissolving pelts to an eerie plainness from which bones emerge, femur, ribcage, jaw, starkness of an overexposed smile around the axis of a joint. How glad he'd be you carry his bones. How rock dust resembles bone dust, a fine sand of being. Thank you.
Thank you, Tori Grant Wellhouse. Oh, it's always good to hear you. I'm trying to think who we should bring up next. How about Emily Calvo?
All right. Well, I don't know. People who are in Chicago know how the weather is right now, and it's we're having a traditional winter, I guess one would say, which inspired this poem, so it's fresh off the press, as they say. It's called A Gray Area. After leaves, rust and fall, Chicago winters spin gray. Naked branches reach for smoky clouds, the color of concrete looms like old photos. We asked to trade sub-zeros for the pale of snow, bleach the landscape to add a sheen, a crisp white sheet. But this means boots. Slide on icy sludge, lawn chairs guarding parking spaces after wheels spin out and shovels scrape the streets back to black. Is the dilemma of snow versus cold a real dilemma? It all depends on where you need to go. Okay. I've got, let's see, I've got three short, well, one's a little longer, but I think it'll be 5 minutes. I was at the Green Mill one night and recall Joel Shamara writing a poem about how he lamented the loss of his coolness to his students. So, because he didn't know some of the lingo that they were talking about. So, in response, I wrote this poem and he liked it. So, it's to the 30-somethings lamenting a loss of coolness. When you hear your teens' music, don't even try to pretend you know the band. When you talk to them, don't even try to use their latest slang correctly. When you are mesmerized by gaming, don't even try to compare your long ago love of Donkey Kong. You will only appear more pathetic. Don't worry, you will be cool again. When you are old, when the bar is so low you can walk over it without a cane, you will be cool again for doing anything remotely active, like riding your bike in the park, or for learning anything, a foreign language, an app, or Tai Chi, for changing your own passwords, for recognizing the smell of weed. Now, all they want from you is $50 for a trip to the mall, and to understand how you earned it, to hear what you said to ace your job interview, to learn to drive and talk cops out of a ticket, to see how the world works, to unlock the mysteries behind the mundane tasks that make your grown-up days so ordinary and their future so scary. Thanks. Got one more here that is, I thought Valentine's Day. I do a little poem for Valentine's Day. This one I wrote for my husband, which was inspired by the need to speak to someone in the language that they understand. So it's called Love Like Heavy Equipment. You light up my life, not neon bright, fluorescent white, no halogen or LEDs tonight, no, more like a vector twin beam spotlight with 3 million candle power, 12 volt H3 series halogens powered by 2 12 volt, 6 amp per hour rechargeable batteries armed with a 3-position power selection switch, hands-on or hands-free, cord or cordless. You choose the illumination. You're hot, not tropical sunspot hot or Thai spicy hot or flaming campfire hot, more like a 750,000 BTU portable propane transport whose power jet burners melt ice, incinerate tree stumps with a 100-pound propane cylinder, flame control trigger valve, UL listed, gas holes, aluminum extender tube, and instructions. I feel your power. Not AAA battery power, solar panel power, more like a Dyna 20,000 watt, 35 horsepower generator with a 36,000 RPM engine producing 83 amps, 120, 240 volts at home, on the job, and a 2-year warranty. You push my buttons, not dainty satin buttons or hotline phone buttons. More like buttons on a 2.4 volt, 2-speed cordless screwdriver. A 6-position adjustable clutch, adjustable for tight spots, forward, reverse, with battery charger, bit set, impact resistant carrying case. We fit together. Not just brush up against together, not simply puzzle piece together, more like a Lovejoy standard half coupling that mount your engine to pump with 11 horsepower synthetic rubber inserts between the coupling valves. One fits the motor, one fits the shaft, and baby, you're always on. Thank you.
Well, Emily, that was super. And so Joel is now experiencing what we experienced in our time and what the teenagers will be experiencing. One thing that younger folks will never understand is what it's like to have to buy marijuana illegally. And when it comes chock full of twigs and seeds, it isn't nearly as strong, unless it is, in which case you're paying even more for it.
Yeah.
So
For those folks on the open mic who aren't in Illinois, it's legal here. So
yeah, right.
Just to clarify that.
yeah, just to clarify.
I have a family member who will not be named, who just drove up from his state about 3 hours to Massachusetts, where it is legal. So at times they're a-changing. So how about next we have Molly. Molly, you want to read next?
Yes. All right. I've been feeling serious, so I've written some prose poems. Here's one. It is called Interiors. In this poem, I argue that although there are Legos mixed with old food under the table, an ultra-black fish is scouring somewhere the planet at the depth of its drowned bone, ocean jagging puffed sand along the very bottom where no light can. Living fully, you see, for all my knowledge of photosynthesis, poultry, and Spinoza, I'll still spend this day participating in the slow loosening tumble of things toward lower things. I don't know what you thought a poet was. I don't own the means of the loosening tumble. I will always have to decide whether to pull that tiny steering wheel out of the hair and toast or not. That might be as far as I get. One can unload the dishwasher or fold the clothes, but not both, not if suddenly teaching first grade from the corner of a room inaptly named living. Once I was a housekeeper. Once I was a professor. I'm neither now. Whence we can safely conclude the end of Anthropos, end of Polis. I don't know what hedge funds are. I probably won't meet my deductible. I want to hold you and think everything is possible. There's one. No. even if there is no one. Even if there is no one now to hear you, before you there were yawning mammoths, lacustrine weeds, thick walks of wild onions where no feet were. Even then a minnow quailed under spring skies loud with the clash of warm and cool. Now hallways and elevators present themselves, busy with passers-by and empty at the same time. The quiet seems true, but not even glaciers went unseen. Some say one thick crevasse already whispered of sinuous rivers warming talons on a shale slab. Such prints still pad the mud in the easements west of town. No story begins or ends. There is only an economy of noise and music and stillness. In the morning, a blue heron will switch its feathers open, cut a portal through the sky. The forward motion of a bird toward peace is something you've seen and I've seen. In epochs beyond us both, my room or yours could house kelp, catfish, could add an ashen layer to a conurbation of mounds. Then sleep, the long turn of time, finds in each being all of them.
Thank you.
And I have one more, just a poem, not a prose poem. This will be my last one. It is called A Brace of Game. I ate pheasant. This was the bed I made in youth. A taste for game and feathers. Then one day a man, joy of devouring. Memory? I've heard of it. The fat of a pheasant before its endangerment was to us kids like the edge of bacon. Is Sunday morning not enough as it is, smelling of this and sheets without having to open another book? I ate catfish. This was the river catch era when I ate ugly things with stunning faces. They commanded me in their confidence. Whiskered, half-evolved, never crawl out of the pondness, ugliness. I ravished D. Some say he still reclines in midday light down in Morgan Park. For real, sunken Midwest sun can soak antique bungalow glass dusted with pollen, oh, dusted with oak, catkins, bloviating hope, winter after winter. After snow, it's a good time to eat what you always loved. Take the bowl full. In one hand, shovel the goods in your mouth, the salt, the thighs, while they're hot. What else? Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. That was great. I want to take a minute to recognize all the people who are watching us on YouTube. Thank you for being here, our YouTube audience. And Emily, Mark Smith says hi, he's out there, and Mary Howley as well. So some old friends are out in YouTube land right now. And for the folks on YouTube, we've got a couple more open micers before we bring up our featured readers tonight. And right now, we'll bring our next open micer and Ray Zimmer. Or is it Zimmer? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's Zimmer.
Okay.
I before E. Yeah, this I'll read a couple short poems. The most recent one here is based on the latest astronomical event that made the news, I guess, called conjunction. I hoped to gaze upon the rare conjunction of planets on the night of winter solstice, when the orbs of Jupiter and Saturn blend to one bright gleaming beacon. I worried that the wonder might not clear the leafless trees that line the river, that the glorious sight, despite its magnitude, might hide behind the houses, worried that the city lights might overshine celestial celebration. But after all, it was a gruel of cold gray cloud that smeared the sky that night. I understand the conjunction is to us but an illusion, planets circling separate by so many million miles, but seeming one atop the other against the vastness. As for you and me, our own apparent brilliance in conjunction, seen from afar, may not reveal our two worlds so unique unto themselves, features hidden beneath the pressures of our own thick atmospheres, circling in our own elliptic orbits, holding satellites in thrall. Time night by night will show us creeping off, inexorably more distant, on differing paths through the vacuum of our space. Thank you. These next two are somewhat related, I suppose, in theme. This next one is provoked by an incident in the Middle East a year or so ago that probably a lot of people have already forgotten. Betrayal. Another clattering army crawls the desert under towering plumes of dust. Another round of artillery fire shakes the earth, pounding mud houses back into the salted earth they sprouted from, smudging a sickly, shimmering sky from one uncertain horizon to the other. These ragged families fleeing down the road, same as all those other desperate refugees of every other desperate dying place on earth. I grieve for them. But I am furious for the fighters left behind to hold the line. Defend that blood-soaked barren sand. For them I am incensed that they must eat the dirt of empty resignation, must choke it down and chew the choice of exodus or death. They must suffer the shocking stab of treachery, shake their fists with all the rage of this betrayal. And this last one, Whistling Man. This fresh air, bright-eyed morning, a whistling lilt drifts over to me on the road as I walk the dogs. My neighbor, barely seen through a screen of native honeysuckle, strolls his sprawling lawn out back, collecting trash and maple twigs, and he trills a breezy melody, a song I can't quite name, a Celtic air or maybe an old-time movie tune. I think of my father, who could summon a song, whistle all day long while trimming a room, shingling a roof, or fishing along the shore. Childhood memories carried off on the wind. I'm a little surprised to hear that man, or anyone, so relaxed and easy with his warbling. Was there ever a time I'd chirp like that? I'm afraid now I'm incapable, dry-mouthed, bitter, drawn, too tense to even purse my lips, too tight to trill light-hearted tune, too angry to whistle a happy song. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, let's see, am I on? So we have one more poet in the open mic, and then we will be moving along to our features. So we have, we're going to wrap up with Cameron Guerin. Cameron, let's hear you.
Hey, thanks for having me, Al and Nina. It's great to hear everyone's work. So nice. I'm going to read you two poems. The first poem is was inspired by Lucille Clifton's poem, At Last We Killed the Roaches, which I'm sure many of you know. It's about rage. And it's not about roaches, it's about a stink bug. What I am capable of. She, yes, looking like slate, like all the Precambrian stone, hooks herself to my pill bottle top and grasps. Just the two of us here in the pre-dawn, the dogs sleep on, but her pincers, her carapace. I've been making myself breakfast, oh, a decade, unclogging my sink, toting furniture on my hip. I've been mowing my summer lawn with my gas-guzzling red mower that I bought at Walmart and lifted into my car trunk for the ride home. These muscles have known rage. I've been corralling the grass clippings into the compost I pay the city to fetch, filling mine and the kids' prescriptions. I've picked glass pieces from this evergreen's arms when my storm window crashed in wind. I've been the last to wipe the sink and the only to tame the stubborn bathroom grout with bleach pens. When a pipe blew in the polar vortex and soaked the plaster, I threw my water main in 90 seconds. Every bulb that burns out, every hole that needs spackled. No one has killed a bug for me in a lifetime. The sun cracks orange pink over the back deck. I have rescued spiders and ants with a cheerful carry to the green outside. Today, I plan her murder. She won't escape. Something in her prehistoric tilt offends me, and I'm set on red revenge. When I want the stink bug dead, I want her dead, and I will kill her, crush and flatten down the center of her shield. I will do it myself until I hear her crack and let go. If she asks me, I'll tell her this is not her place or time, that she doesn't get to choose her aliveness. I'll flush all of her legs, slate pieces, appetite in a watery grave, just as the sun lights my kitchen sink on fire. Thank you. The next one, last one, is from a series I'm working on about insomnia. I have lots of material, unfortunately. Maybe some of you can relate. Okay, this one is called Insomnia After Discussing Moving In Together. In the dark fields, the hay bales slouch. The 6 cows in the holler too, the pinto mare, the deer dotting the hillsides, legs and noses tucked. The spider with her fresh web, they are unperturbed, and the balm of sleep visits and holds them, and you, through the quiet. But I'm eating the last piece of pizza cold and pried from its floppy box in the fridge light, and my cells are rioting. Please, for our sake, be sure of this love. In the morning, forward. The farm and wild animals stir. This kitchen sink sluices worries with the soap, and I hold you still, our hips braced on the counter's washboarded tin. We stay like that, folded into our slant, a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron. And that wraps up our open mic. Two of Cameron's insomnia poems are going to be in the next issue of After Hours. So I want to do a quick plug for After Hours. It's the magazine that I publish, and some of you will be doing another virtual reading, of course, with the new issue. But what I really want to plug was the Mary Blinn Poetry Prize. We're coming up on our deadline. Some folks here have submitted work to our competition, but the deadline's February 28th. So all those folks out there in YouTube land, just want to remind you of the deadline as well. And also wanted to comment on the number of people who are on YouTube and the number of people right here on our Zoom reading would never fit into the Buzz Cafe where we used to have this. So it's kind of nice. And before I hand off to Nina to introduce our features, Kurt, you should say hello. Our man behind the curtain, who's also a fine writer, poet. Kurt Heintz is our technical guy. So just give us a wave, Kurt.
You need me to say something? Hi. That's all you're going to get out of me tonight. I'm really going to be the man behind the curtain. So
okay. Okay.
All right. Thanks, guys.
One thing about Kurt, Jeffrey, since you were asking, Kurt also has done some fine poetry videos with Sin Salage and who else, Kurt?
Patricia Smith, Corey Shiley, Lon Sana. But that was sort of a generation. I also, after that, Jeff McDaniel might be acquainted. He may remember that we had some video links going in and out of Los Angeles, and so that I got acquainted with the people in and out of Beyond Baroque and other places out there. So that was sort of what followed on the poetry video work that was going on here in Chicago in the mid '90s, and that led right up to the end of the century. So it was really fun to do, and LA was a strong point for that. I got to say, I enjoyed doing the LA video links in the '90s, way ahead of getting to do anything like this. This is sort of like a dream come true with Zoom. We can all be in different places and still see each other.
So much fun.
But that was a lot of fun back then. So I'm looking forward to your stuff tonight, sir.
One thing that we cannot do virtually is pass the hat. And so what we like to ask people to do is we're going to be putting, I don't know if we're going to be putting Venmo or Zelle links for the poets in the chat. Guys, if you haven't done it yet, give Al the information. He'll get it out to YouTube and to the people inside of the Zoom cafe, I guess. And they also have books, and I'll tell you who the publishers are so that you can go and buy them. I also want to let you know that next month, our features will be Sandra Beasley, who's down in the DC area, and Laura Swearingen Steadwell. Some of you may know her as Laura Yes Yes. It'll be yet another wonderful show. We're having so much fun bringing people in from everywhere. So I'm going to start with introductions, and I haven't had a chance to ask people, but Stefania, would you be willing to go first?
I'm happy to.
Okay, so I'm going to start by introducing Stefania. She's a queer writer and audio artist from Chicago. I first met her when she was one of the killer performers and poets at Louder Than a Bomb. And, there was a time period in slam history when people's performance was stronger than their poetry. And the young people at Louder Than a Bomb just kind of brought their truth in a way that has just really touched so many people here in the Chicago area. So that's how I met Stefania. And also she read at Woman Made Gallery, where I'm the literary curator. I'm looking forward to hearing what she has been doing in the last number of years. She's currently pursuing her MFA at Washington University at St. Louis, and she's the author of the chapbook, Once I Loved a Cowboy, on Ghost City Press. So go check out there if you want to pick up her chapbook. She was also nominated for a 2019 Pushcart Prize. Stefania, show us what you've got.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you, Al, as well. And for everyone who just read, that was so incredible. So thanks for that. So yeah, I'll just start with a couple poems from a chapbook of mine called Once I Loved a Cowboy. that came out in 2019. It's about a year in my life when I discovered what toxic masculinity is. Never thought it would happen to me, but it's out there. It can happen to you too. So this is called Oil Spill. You arrive in my bed smelling like the bar, like some soft wild animal just rescued from an oil spill. You answer my questions as if waiting so still to be released. I will scrib dawn on your feathers every night, though none have done this to you before, and you do not know that it might free you. How could you? I am hopeful as a company that sells dish soap and believes it can write a disaster as great as the Exxon Valdez. Where is the place you go in your mind when you are not here? Are some just not meant to come as close to the world as others? What will it take for me to swim around with you in that place, dark and muddy as crude oil? I scrub and scrub and scrub. Limbic improvisation number 1. You beckoned me closer, then sent me away, like a bat who eats fruit and spits out the seeds. I took your hands to my neck while I swallowed something bright as a tangerine. When you became a part of me, I absorbed your skin, pulp, citric acid, bitterness, all your chalky inner workings. Sometimes I wish I could get my teeth on you, tear you up into tiny pieces, mix you up with my saliva, and paint a banner with you. One I'd fly at dawn. Then I'd become a target for gulls who'd fly towards me blindly in mass, nearly missing me with their cruel mouths. But I'd bow my body to the ground, press my face into the salt. They'd rush past like a screaming breath. So I'll read a few new poems. Most of them I wrote in my MFA program that I'm in right now. I'm in my first year at Washington University in St. Louis. This is a poem that I wrote after I found myself having spent a night in a tiny wooden shack in the Ozarks, which is, I guess, just like a thing that happens to you if you move to Missouri. So this is this is called "Oh Bod." I woke first and tore pages from my notebook to stoke the stove in the quiet. Across the fire ring last night, your face had been dark. Stepping outside, I sat among the obsolete instruments of agriculture that hung on the shack's face, their rusted abstraction. The morning was severe, the moon at odds with the sunrise in the same sky, and the drinking water frozen in its glass. At once, a coyote appeared, circling foul as if doting on a lover. It was clear now, in the palm of first light. The brush had awoken with the graying leaves, reckless, burning torrent towards an indifferent earth. What did I know? The flames that grew inside were ones I'd desired, coaxed from unsuitable kindling until they caught. Twigs. When we met, we were twigs, but became beautiful. Your skin dappled like a canyon's basin. Do you remember the neighbor Dan, who lobbied for the life of one 400-year-old tree for so long, the neighborhood questioned his sanity? He held a funeral for the clear cut. Sunday, we scrolled through photos for your obituary. In my head, an old growth is felled over and over. The hills covered in stumps, landscape dotted like the freckled plains of your fingers, forearms, shoulders. To determine the age of the tree, Dan counted each ring. You had 26. Once, when forests were old, it took many men to fell one tree, and with trucks haul away one tree loads. The night it happened to you was silent as a forest clearing. one brittle snap. Yeah, thanks for listening so far. So I'm in this poetry program. No one told me that poetry school would actually be like really difficult. I was shocked to discover that. I have to do this like crazy thing where like I investigate my kind of like deepest vulnerabilities with like rigor. It's kind of kooky. And two of those vulnerabilities are the loss of a dear friend of mine last spring, and then a near-death experience that I had this summer in a car accident. So some of these poems I'll read are going to kind of touch on those subjects. So this is called Wreck. Firemen cut the car open like a cake, but when they reached through the windshield to pull me out, they instead grabbed handfuls of confetti. After the last of that came the poultry, the rubber chickens and ducks that moaned in a chorus as they were scooped into the men's arms, as if they dreaded for their lives to be saved. Then came the great men of history: Caesar, Alexander the Great, Napoleon Bonaparte, Ben Franklin, together with their wives, giving them a hand to be sure their skirts didn't catch on the glass's jagged edges. Then my boyfriend was pulled out, shrugging. Then came the mast of a tall ship, practically as much timber as the woods off the road the car had flipped into. The firemen took turns trying to stand it up like a tree and laughing, posing for a photo next to it. Then they pulled out my adolescence, at which point they became self-conscious about their prior merriment, and a silence fell upon them. They pulled out heaven and hell. They couldn't get a good handle on purgatory, couldn't manage fear either, but they did pull out my plans for the future, one by one, admiring how they shone like coins. Really, so much was salvaged that when they stuffed the last thing they could fit into the ambulance and shut the door without me, I could hardly blame them. Sorry, no more room, they said. Oh no, I don't mind. Don't for a second worry that I mind, I said. With all that in the car with me, I was starting to think I'd never be alone. So I'll just read a few more. This poem is sort of about having serious health problems, which are not cute, but then still trying to be cute myself. Hosiery. The color of a gallbladder and paranoia that the MRI will pick up my dirty thoughts about you. Their soft and dark shadows. The contrast, its wet rubber port stuck in me. The paper gown's breath, a patient's lament. A lot of things happen when you get older, don't they? Crimson and clover over the machine's melody. In the white room, thinking to request what I like to call grown folks music. My weak resolve and constitution. My scars and horrible face. Being told the scan would show if I smiled, wouldn't I? Meanwhile, a photo I send to you of my nude torso, punctuated by the staple's sticky memory. An untested theory about the therapeutic effect of orgasm on chronic pain. The machine so close around me, like a lover's grip, his sterile erection. So like living through the pandemic, I've sort of become obsessed with the HIV/AIDS epidemic, which I didn't actually live through. I was born kind of like right as it was ending. Because it's sort of like the most recent comparison point to the COVID pandemic in the US, especially given its importance in the history of my community, the queer community, and also having experienced some serious health problems myself and thinking about how political and politicized the bodies and the survival of queer people are. So this poem sort of comes out of that obsession. It's called Self-Portrait as Public Health Emergency. There once was a plague among my kind. Then the clocks ticked backwards, out of sync, out of time. The skin purple in archipelagos. The shrinking pile of foil-wrapped candy in the corner. protease corkscrewing pearl necklaces of DNA. Do you remember when my fever ran so high, the curtains caught aflame? Your eyelids dropped like black cloth, like banner after banner unfurled from the FDA's rooftop. The infection, fungal, reached the brain. I never should have let you behind the wheel. There are times I'm with you, I pray. Thank you for what you can still give me when my hearing leaves. I still long, though my body was cleaved. Some were transfused. Me, I pricked my own finger. I love you with the waste of panic, with the panic of waste. My body a specimen in a petri dish. Your body a pharmacon. Those who survived the war wondered why they got to come home. What's better, starting something or ending it? The death I didn't have left its angry claws in my stomach's lining, filled my lungs, ran like blood from my nose. The drug that brought your death felt like brown velvet. The ambulance lights smiling and humane. Only one of us was saved. Many mornings naked under a gown, fluids drawn and tubed. 7 surgeons' orchestras conducted to convince me what I've done is survive. A pill, a pink promise, a boat. Another death had awaited you. One awaits me too. Okay, just 2 more, and I'll pass it along. Shards. Beneath the surface, a wound's promise, a horror almost exhilarating. The ringing question, the delicious why. I watched them pull me through the windshield, my body another's possession. I watched the operation, the betrayal between the 2nd and 3rd ribs, where the devil can drink, where speech should be a thoracic wall, animal that crawls curiously, metal in a stranger's soft stomach, swollen the ankles, withered the breasts, trapped the breaths of that other body, hidden in my own, so that to touch it is a thrill, to uncover its name from the tea-dark flesh of memory beneath thin golden layers of entrails, like a wishbone, emits a satisfying crack. So my last poem. Thanks for listening. Thanks so much to Nina and Al, folks from the open mic, and to Jeffrey. I'm really excited to hear what you got. And I do have many copies of my book, just in case you're interested in buying one. So thanks again. It's called The Way I Love. You came from mud, fields where the pine forest was cleared, an oily crow emerging from a milky puddle, roused from sleep, mewing in starts. As I walked past the woods men visit to shoot their guns, leaving their smoke in the ground, where birch grows, if pine doesn't, in the air at once, bright and dark. Cougars will scatter once they see you. It's a promise I make. The eagle now making a mantle of his wings, his claws shut, the wolves singing morning, noon, and night. They smell the fawn painted on the interstate, an impression of the deep dark for which I came. Your hands shaking me awake, your hands brown feathers over my eyes, scattering something slick. Thanks, everyone.
That was so beautiful, Stefania. That's just really powerful stuff. I love the stuff about the body, so please bring it back if you happen to notice when Woman Made does their next body reading, which is, I have no idea when, but. How and where do people get your books?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I will post a link in the Zoom chat, but it's just stefaniagomez.bighartel.com.
And so then people will buy it and you'll mail it out to them?
That's right. Yeah. So you can order it there and then I'll send it to you.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'm in the meantime I'm waiting for the full length.
Me too. Yeah. I'll let you know.
Well, so now it's time to bring up Jeffrey McDaniel. And I want to say that Jeffrey posted some stuff on Facebook, which were his grades and his teachers' comments from, I don't know when, maybe middle school, or we had actually junior high school back then, and high school. And although I wanted to be able to bring some clips of their comments, suffice it to say that A, they thought he had no future as a writer, and B, he has proven them wrong with a vengeance. Jeffrey is the author of 6 books of poetry, most recently, and I want to tell you how much I am in love with your titles: Holiday in the Islands of Grief. Other books including Chapel of Inadvertent Joy, The Endarkenment, The Splinter Factory, The Forgiveness Parade, and Alibi School. These are some great titles. Damn your early teachers. His poems have appeared in numerous journals and anthologies, including 3 editions of Best American Poetry and The New Yorker, a recipient of an NEA fellowship. He teaches at Sarah Lawrence College and lives in the Hudson Valley. Jeffrey, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Nina and Kurt and Al, for putting us together. Nina and Kurt, I've heard your guys' names a bunch over the past 20 years, so it's great to kind of be with the Chicago crew a little bit. Stefania, those poems are amazing. They're definitely going to be in a full length sometime soon. The word slick was kind of cool, like that came up in the kind of bracketed the poems, and the ones around the relationship, and just really powerful stuff, could relate to the journey into grief, and really powerful work. So I am looking forward to that book. And it's pretty cool, right? To see someone, like, you're in grad school, but we all know that book is happening. You know what I mean? Like, this wouldn't have happened like 10 years ago, where we get to see somebody like, you know, or before, you know, so who's like making it happen. And before the book comes out, we're hearing the work. So that's really cool. I was cool to hear Joel Chamara, shout out to him, and whose house I slept at. His parents made great sandwiches back in 1999. Really nice family. And I heard Mark Smith might be here, so that's great to know. Mark, what's up? I was supposed to be in Chicago last year, but in April, but it wasn't in the cards, right? Hopefully I'll get there. I haven't read in Chicago in a long time. I'm going to read a few poems from my book that came out right at the beginning of the pandemic, Holiday in the Islands of Grief. So maybe the publication caused the pandemic. I'll start out with a poem for my father, who passed away in 2017. And, it's weird to read like in your house. So my dad was like in this house, and he he was here and he was on that sofa, and like, that's a painting from his apartment. And so I'll start out with this poem for him. It's called Bagpipes. I remember 5 half-drunk Diet Coke cans plopped on the base of a bronze statue about the Holocaust by a Polish sculptor. I remember smudges of blood on a half-buttoned dress shirt, a pair of glasses swallowed somewhere in the room's physical noise, which was like the sea on a windy day, except frozen. I remember a rusty metal shopping cart parked by the apartment door, packed with empty soda cans and downed energy drinks and my brother's Dos Equis bottles. I remember $10,000 worth of silver coins in a torn green trash bag. I remember the lemony scent of urine radiating outward from his rumpled throne, like a lighthouse whispering, beware, beware, beware. The oxygen tank in the background, a thick layer of dust on a pair of brown leather penny loafers by the door. I remember 10 dress shirts at the local dry cleaner that never got picked up. 3 weeks of mail stacked up on a pile of newspapers. I remember reading Gabriel by Ed Hirsch in the same cafe where I'm typing this now. I remember the uneaten plates of food once he moved into the home. I remember him shrinking like a t-shirt that kept getting washed. I remember the invisible clock ticking. I remember instructing my daughter to press handfuls of her dark hair to his nose. I remember his right eye, the only part of him that still moved, the animated blue of his eye. I remember his hand in mine, and I rubbed my other hand over the prairie stubble of his chest. I remember the last scraps of breath being tugged out. I remember how when I entered the funeral parlor, I knew the body was no longer his, the way his lips looked like they'd been sealed with glue. I remember listening to the pastor and thinking she never knew him. I remember I was on the right side of the room. I remember standing to read the eulogy and my head filling with cotton. I remember being certain he could hear me, my daughter sliding a note into his pocket. I remember my chest feeling like a rug on fire being stamped out. I remember the warm hand of his college roommate. I remember not wanting the lid to close. The man who ran the place standing beside me and saying he lost his father the year before, which was his way of saying it was time to go. I remember only bits of the bagpipe player at the gravesite, the cars whipping by on the highway below. I remember they were moving too fast in time. There was only 4 of us to shoulder the casket onto the pulley device that would lower him into the dirt, where he would take out my daughter's note and read it in his voice of Bombay gin mixed with gravel. So it's a poem for my dad. Read maybe one other poem from here. This is, I don't know if anybody knows that song, but tell Mark I said, what's up, Mark? Love you, man. I haven't seen you in so long. It's been way too long since I've seen you, Mark. I hope I get to see you sometime soon. I know I was supposed to read at the Green Mill, and I was really looking forward to that. I don't know how many years it's been. I don't know. I had a kid, got a house, moved out of Brooklyn. I just didn't get on the road as much, and started coaching basketball, got really into basketball, got doing community stuff around that. So who knows? This is what, this is called Gigantic. I don't know if people know the Pixies, that song they had called Gigantic. So it sort of has something to do with that. And a French girl in Prague. I'm transcribing a 2nd grade creative writing exercise when I realize I have been misspelling the word penguin my whole life. Bands are said to be selling out when a song appears in a commercial, but don't the Pixies get a pass for Gigantic? Don't they deserve a little icing off the cake they built? Crap, that's a mixed metaphor and it doesn't make sense. Sense is overrated, says the dance therapist in my brain. Watch out for your bruised ribs, says the mother in my solar plexus. I'll only see the nurse if you get me more Xanax, says my mother in real life. 20 years ago, I met a French girl in a gigantic nightclub in Prague, plopped on stage, chin propped on hands. If you drew a cartoon of a sad girl in a club, it'd be her. Some guy just dumped her. A friend drove her to Prague on a cheer you up road trip. The fiction writer in my head says this would be a great place to add some tactile details if you want to make this engaging for a general reader. But I don't want to talk about how the club reperie was the size of a gymnasium in the basement of the Czech version of Carnegie Hall with a lunette mosaic in the lobby and a marble staircase. I don't feel like talking about how the bandana wearing DJ was on a scaffold and unleashed killing in the name of, and how the Euros started moshing and their mosh pits were genetically more gentle than American mosh pits. Anyway, the next night at dawn, Delphine, the French girl, said the Pixies were the only good thing that had come from America. And we did that thing where you make fun of each other's country, overlooking the Vlatva gushing under Charles Bridge with its gauntlet of holy statues, the sky an orange dream over Prague Castle. I was so stupid when it came to women. My pride got wounded and my hackles went up. And what the fuck are hackles? And now it's 20 years later. Again, it's 5 a.m. and the sun is mutilating Coke parties up and down the eastern seaboard. And I'm middle-aged. And I just learned that penguin isn't spelled with a Q. Thinking of Delphine and crossing Charles Bridge at dawn, the struck match sun ricocheting off the silver on her fingers, the stone saints and I all enamored with the mercury in her eyes. So, and I actually somehow found that girl on Facebook and sent her that poem, which was kind of cool. I haven't seen her in real life or something like that. Okay, I'll tell you the truth. I'm in Paris. We reconnected and I left my life behind and we're together. Okay. All right. Here are some new poems, but yeah, that's from my book. I really do dig that book. All right, so this I'll read for Mark. I haven't read this, Mark. Mark, these are really new poems, and I don't know if these I don't know what's in it, but it mentions the National Slam, and it's 1993. Like, I'm reading stuff that I'm thinking of sending to magazines. I've been trying to write a poem a day during this pandemic, or write every day. I'm trying to walk every day so I don't lose my fucking mind. You know what I mean? Like, it's no longer oh, I'm writing because I'd like to create something. It's I need to remember that I'm alive and I did something today that's has to do with me. Do you know what I mean? It's not like something that's real to me. That's because it seems so tenuous. It seems like it could all just evaporate any second for any of us. And so I don't know. And walking is also elemental and makes me feel alive. And when I say doing it for me, I mean to make me feel alive, because I think I need to feel that way. Anyway, called 1993. If my life was a deck of cards, one card for every year, and we split the deck exactly in half, that's how old I am in this picture. The ace of clubs, hair slicked back, a sneer glued to my lips, black leather jacket over a hoodie with pot smoke in the fabric, a splash of defiance in my pupils, glaring at the photographer from the Washington Times on the roof of my brother's DC apartment, 24th and K. Less than a month away from what will be my last drink, a Jack and Ginger on a bar stool at Fox and Hounds. But I didn't know that in the photo. I was trying to convince myself I was a badass. Back from 8 weeks in Prague, then the National Slam in the Mission District, where I sucked Saturn from a joint in an alley moments before ripping a poem in the women's building. In the photo, I was holding invites for readings in Chicago, Tampa Bay, the New Eureka, my poetry career blooming, even as everything inside me was dissolving like a stick of butter in a microwave. No job, no friends, face bloated, mooching 20s off my father so I could spiral to money-making Manhattan and cop bags of dope to snort in the bathroom at Max Fish. I was an astronaut plummeting from the sky, but I didn't know that in the photo. The November sun tracing a streak of rust through my hair. Okay. This is called another poem. This is a question I get a lot. People want to know how I got so fat. The truth is, it wasn't easy. It took a pretty serious commitment, a lot of late nights, dedication, persistence, hitting the fridge when other people were sleeping. I just wanted that 3 a.m. cereal more. I fought through the pain in my stomach when it felt like my belly button might pop at the seam. I winced through the humiliation of yet another pair of pants ripping, sucking in my stomach to get the zipper up and snapped shut, the red marks on my waist, my daughter running into the dining room and snatching soda from me. But why, people ask? The truth is I was auditioning for a role and it would be more authentic if I put on 50 pounds. It was a movie called The Glutton, kind of like The Joker, but with food, and Christian Bale wasn't available. I sacrificed my looks and physique for the name of art, but why, people ask? The truth is I ate all those double doubles and guzzled all those sugar drinks as part of a monogamy enhancement experiment. But why? I was building a spaceship out of shame, one candy bar at a time, that would keep me grounded on Earth. But why? Because I was afraid of being an astronaut, because I'm a creature of habit, because I didn't want to feel, because I like going to sleep with a bowling bowl of pizza dough in my belly, because I wanted to know what it felt like to be fucked from the inside, because it took on a life of its own, because I can't tell the difference between life and art. Okay. It's just weird. I'm looking at a screen with my poems on it, so I actually can't see anybody. So I figure that this feed is no longer there and no one can hear me anymore. This is from like the beginning of the pandemic. Like March.
Definitely.
I know you can hear me. I know you can hear me.
Definitely hear you.
I know. I was like kidding around. Okay. Hold it. How you holding up? A friend asks. High waves of anxiety mixed with periods of surface calm. How you holding up? By a thread, I am being held up by a strong thread. And what scares me is not knowing what the temperature is of the water I'm being held up over and what's inside there. How you holding up? With both hands. I'm holding it up with both hands. How you holding up? Like a bank with fake bills in the drawers, like a mushy birthday cake, like a middle finger at a car window, like a bad perm, like the hand of the student in the back row who wants to show he's participating but doesn't want to get called on, like the eyebrows of Winona Ryder, like a fist from a pile of rubble. So, I should say, like, in New York, like we got hit with like the whole Corona thing in March, April. Like, I guess the rest of the country, it was, I don't know what was going on in Chicago, but New York was crazy. I'm an hour north of the city and it was crazy on the street. My next door neighbor, like the people right out that window, the dad got taken away and died. I mean, it was intense, right? And then it kind of loosened up for us, but now it's like barreling down again. So these are two poems that mention screwdrivers. Screwdriver on the Hudson. 8:16 a.m. An invisible screwdriver burrowed into your forehead, an inch above your eyes. Consider yourself lucky. Symmetrical headaches are much easier to diffuse. Your daughter just woke several hours north of here in the highest branches of a pine tree. Her and 11 other girls are roasting the eyes of future misogynists over an open flame like marshmallows. They're juggling axe handles and kayaking across a lake of liquid glass. If you listen closely, you can hear the old man in overalls making his morning rounds and unhooking the stars that he hammered into place 12 hours ago. Not a bad job. Down here, the swimming pool's closed. Basketball rims unscrewed from the backboard. But the cardinals and worms and mockingbirds are still employed, doing their essential work. My daughter got to go like to a basketball camp at an inn in Lake Placid with like 11 other girls on her team, and it was amazing. Just like to get her to go do something nice when all that was going on was just wild. Okay, this is like a little bit more mature, so you should probably like close your eyes or, I don't know, keep someone who's younger away. It's called The Unscrewing. And these were like written chronologically, like I'm jumping around, there's like 100 pages, but I think the screwdriver from the one before turned into The Unscrewing. Make a list of all the people you've had sex with, and then count how many you would unscrew if you had the chance. Better yet, how many would you take apart and screw properly? You were a novice putting together an IKEA cabinet. No clue where anything goes and done in 60 seconds. What did you know about touch? About reading into the complexity of sensation, turning each page of skin, reading each sentence over and over until the spine arched and the sighs ricocheted off the ceiling. You know, for such a two-timing hoe, you really weren't that good in bed. The worst of both worlds. If you're gonna be a hoe, at least do your homework. Be a hoe with commitment, not a halfway hoe, barreling through foreplay like a rush hour subway station, as if there was somewhere better you needed to be. Okay, a couple other poems, and then we'll be out of here like Vladimir. This is called Pleasure Fetish. Her tongue was the world's softest chainsaw. Timber, she whispered with a smile. Who stuck the teddy bear in the microwave? Who shaved the eyebrow of the hurricane? Let my fingers do the walking over the cobblestones of your spine. Let the blue of the sky be bottled and sold by the pint. Let's use the Pleiades for target practice. Constellations popping like light bulbs. Let me hammer a kiss on your forehead. Let me graffiti my initials on your neck in breath. Let me rub the death back into the bones of your hands, Miss Lonely Skin, Miss Trauma Shoulders. Let me tug down your lower lip like a priest's red boxers, your tiny teeth, white Bibles, sinking their holy truth into me. Okay, I either have one or two more poems. I'll just do two. This, I don't even know if I like this poem here, but like, we'll mess with it. I don't know if anyone's ever been to Greenwich, Connecticut. I was there today. My daughter has a broken ankle. She broke it twice in the past like 4 months. So we're in Greenwich. I actually like Greenwich now, but like this poem was written, like I was there, like I don't know, I think it was November, and I just had like this reaction to it. Anyway, everyone in this town has a college degree. 6-year-olds sipping lattes. You can have it all, a wife says. A halo-shaped strobe light for a wedding ring. A black leather purse softer than a cow's belly, a husband with a big dick and a big salary, summer weekends in pedigreed salt water. Everyone here is wearing a social corset. Even the blue-eyed children in strollers cry in a more refined manner, Viagra crushed and sprinkled into the town water supply, giving men that swagger. The American flag is just a little more American here. The teeth a little whiter, the vaginas professionally adjusted, the designer sunglasses and buff shoes, the squash and elliptical, the gardener and the tennis instruction, the blue blood erections, the hair, the perfectly trimmed and styled hair, not a strand out of place, the birds, even the birds chirp with a New England accent. Okay, so I'll just finish with this poem, which is kind of a quiet poem, but we'll just end with this and slip away. Thank you for listening. September 16th, 8 a.m., 45 degrees, a train whistle from the river. You're in shorts and flip-flops, chopping trimmed tree branches into 4-foot bundles so the town can haul them away. The sun reaches through the trees, a yellow hand on the grass. You're drinking in the outdoors, bracing for the 7-month winter. You go inside, a smell in the kitchen. You remove the trash bag as you tie the top. The bag rests on your bare foot, strangely warm, almost paternal, as if there's a hand at the bottom of the bag reassuring you. In 40 minutes, your primary care doctor will be holding your balls like weighing apricots, asking you to cough. the scale will tell him things, and he will draw blood from your arm by sticking a tiny vampire into your vein. So that's the end. Thank you for listening to me, and great to read with you, Stefania, and the other readers too.
Jeffrey kicked some serious ass. Thank you very much. Thank you, Stefania, those of you from the open mic and YouTube land, and actually Tim Siebels says hello and he owes you one.
Yo, what's up, Tim?
Yeah. So ditto that. Everybody was great tonight. Really enjoyed that, Jeff and Stefania. That was really good features. And our open mic, thanks for our new people who made the effort to get here and join this Chicago reading, which is becoming much wider than Chicago, we're happy to say. So yeah, I don't have anything to add except thank you to everyone for being here. Join us again next month. You'll be on the mailing list for sure.
Yeah, and next month, it's Laura Swearingen-Stedwell and Sandra Beasley, who I'm really looking forward to hearing. She's got a new book out. And Jeffrey, one more thing about how to get your books.
Well, I mean, like, so this is the newest book. It's called, it's on University of Pittsburgh Press. So people could do that. If they want to Venmo me, directly and say, like, I'd like to book, if they send me like $20, I'll send them a book, like I'll mail it to them, or they could get it from like, Powell's or Amazon if that's their jam, or University of Pittsburgh Press, I guess.
Yeah. You guys were wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us. All of you. Hope to see you next month. And please spread the word around. Spread the good spirit and the good words.
Thank you, everyone. And I guess we'll be signing off. Thank you to everyone out there in YouTube land. And we hope to see you again.
And
Great
everyone
stuff,
online
everybody.
can applaud and be
Thanks,
heard now
thank you.
finally too.
Bye.
Thank you. It was a great reading. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Great night, Jeffrey. Good to hear you.